This story happened to me nearly 5 years ago. Every time I think about it, it sends chills throughout my entire body. I will never forget this day for as long as I may live. My best friend April and I were attending a big university. We also shared an apartment together that was right down the street. I was talking to April in the hallway when I noticed a boy I've never seen before. He was walking toward us. He wore a nice smile and seemed pleasant. He looked around our age. "Hi," he said with a wave and a smile. He was really cute, I thought. April was more outgoing than me, so she didn't hesitate to wave back and say, "Hello." I just smiled politely. "I'm Nick. I just transferred," he began. He told us he was majoring in business and asked us our names and majors. "I'm April, and this is Tony. We're both majoring in laboratory science." "What brings you into this building?" I asked. Nick looked totally confused. "What do you mean? I just transferred here." We informed him that this building was the College of Science building, and it only had degrees like biochemistry, physics, and the building with business classes were 15 minutes away. He seemed puzzled and then chuckled. "Oh yeah, I was just exploring. I don't have any friends yet. I was hoping to make some." April immediately said, "Me and Tony were just talking about creating study nights with people of different degrees. We could all learn from another. Would you be interested?" Nick responded excitably, "Sure, sounds fun." As we walked outside, April gave Nick her number so she could invite him to our study night this weekend. As he stood next to me, I began to feel somewhat uncomfortable. I couldn't explain it, but there was something off about him. I noticed a black SUV parked right on the street. Its windows were tinted. "Oh, my dad's here. I'll see you guys this weekend," Nick said. After Nick left, I asked April if she thought it was okay inviting someone over whom we just met. "Didn't you see him? He was really nice and handsome. He seems like a good guy," April said. "But you don't find it weird that he came 15 minutes away just to make friends with us?" April thought, "Okay, maybe you're right. We'll see." The next night, April had to cancel the study group because her brother was back from the army and she wanted to go see him. The next day, that Friday, I walked over to the small grocery store that was directly across the street from the school building. When I reached the counter, there was a man who was wearing a black baseball cap standing right in front of me. At first, I couldn't see his face. Then suddenly, the man slowly rotated his head to where the left side of his face was exposed. He looked like he could be in his 50s. He had cuts on his cheek and neck, and his eye moved directly at me. His blank expression turned into some kind of wicked grin, and he was still looking directly at me. My entire body jumped. I was completely scared and perplexed. What was wrong with him? I quickly went into another line without looking back. I rushed to the doors afterwards. I wanted to hurry and get out of there in case he was still looking at me. As soon as I walked outside, I saw him again, standing there, right next to that black SUV, the same car that Nick said his dad came to pick him up in. The man just stood there with a crazy expression, exposing his teeth. I was beyond scared. I couldn't move. Within a minute or two, he just drove away. I rushed home so quickly. I hurried and texted April. I kept seeing that man's face in my head, and that SUV. Was that really Nick's dad? Was he following me? I was sweating like crazy. April said she would call Nick. Hopefully, he could provide some type of ease. I was so shaking up. I couldn't even move or put the groceries away. I tried to take deep breaths and try to tell myself he was just a crazy old man, off of his meds. When April texted me back, she said that Nick's phone was off. I didn't even know what to say. All I knew was that April had already given Nick our address the day before she canceled. I had to ensure that everything was locked and shut. It was after 10 p.m. and I was ready to sleep. April had texted me throughout the evening to help me relax. It seemed like a normal weekend for me, so I was gonna go to sleep. My mind wasn't fixated on the man or the SUV anymore. I had just dozed off shortly after. Then suddenly, I woke up to the sound of a car door closing. My bedroom faces the parking lot area, and I am a very light sleeper. I pretty much wake up from hearing anything. My eyes popped open when I heard the sound of heavy footsteps. It sounded like it approached my window. I looked over towards the window. I wasn't sure at first, but it looked like a shadow figure standing right outside. I rubbed my eyes and sat up to see again, and there was a man standing outside my window. My heart began to pound in my chest. Was that the old man again? Was it Nick? I grabbed my phone and I planned to head out the front door. That's until knocking came from the front door. I rushed up the stairs into April's room. I was going to hide under her bed while I tried to get help. I felt that going upstairs would buy me some time with the intruder. As I hid under April's bed, I could hear a loud bang from downstairs. It sounded like the front door had been kicked open. And at that moment, I was so terrified I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. I remembered April said she would be up until 2 a.m. and to text her if I needed anything. I quickly shot her a message. I was too scared to be heard by calling 911. But I knew I had to call anyway. As I called 911, I could hear footsteps throughout the house, but it didn't sound like just one person. In fact, it sounded like there were more than 2 people in the house. The only thing I could whisper to the 911 operator was, "Help me. People have broken into my apartment. I'm hiding under the bed." Then suddenly, door creaked open. I was beyond terrified. I felt like I was going to faint. My body trembled so bad. 2 people came walking into the room. My sweat began falling onto the floor. I held my breath for as long as I could. I didn't know what they wanted or why. Then suddenly, I heard a voice call out to the people in April's room. That voice sounded just like Nick. I could only make out, "They should have been here," is what I heard. Thankfully, I could hear the police sirens approaching. And I heard another voice say, "Let's go." And Nick said, "Head out the window." I still held my breath and stayed still. It grew quiet inside the house. I could hear shouting outside, and I thought, good, the officers caught him. I sighed with relief and began making my way from under the bed until I froze. I found you, he said. All I could do was let out the loudest petrified scream. The man began to try to grab at me from under the bed. He was laughing as he tried to pull me from under. I kicked at his head as I screamed, "Help me!" as loud as I possibly could. Suddenly, cops rushed into the room and arrested the man before he could pull me. I still couldn't move. I was so frantic I could not think straight. The cops were able to arrest 2 of the men, including that old man. Apparently, there were 2 more of them on the run. One, I'm sure, who was Nick. My parents lived about an hour and a half away. When they arrived, they rushed to me. Their embrace made me feel safe. I didn't realize how much I missed them. I found out days later that Nick was posing as a student at different universities. The old man was Nick's uncle. They would trick girls and abduct them to sell them into human trafficking. They were linked to 3 kidnappings in the city. April and I remained friends, even after I ended up attending another university while staying with my parents. Looking back on that story, I still hope I may never experience what happened ever again. If you guys enjoyed that story, please hit that like or subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it. And if you have a story that you would like for me to create here on my channel, just look at that description and you can see where to submit your stories. Thank you guys, and I'll see you on the next video.